Hi, Dr. Phil here. Welcome to this edition of the Lightning Process Graduate Newsletters. Today I'm going to continue our exploration of the things that people have told us. This is something that I found difficult, challenging, or this is a solution I found to get over this. So these are problems that people often find when they're learning new things, particularly the Lightning process, and these are solutions. And today's is about not spotting the pit. So this is something we find where people say, I'm getting a bit stuck. And when we talk to them and guide them through the process, what's happened is they've not spotted the pit. So classic examples of this are they're doing the process for relaxation or to boost their energy. And they find they're getting small change, but not the change they want. And then what they do is they start getting really nasty and harsh on themselves, going, what's the matter with me? Why can't I do this? Now we've got another version of the pit. This is the version of the pit which is them being hard on themselves, being harsh, being unkind. But they don't spot that. They spot the fact they've got tiredness or anxiety, but they're not spotting this second version of the pit, where in this case they're being nasty to themselves. So let's define the pit. What is the pit? The pit is anything that is not life enhancing. So anything that's not helping your life move forwards. Quite often people equate the pit wrongly to the pit is negative things. The Lightning process is all about positive things. That's not actually true. It's much more nuanced than that. The Lightning process says the pit is defined as things that are not life enhancing, not moving your life forwards, not whether they're positive or negative. So for instance, you might come home and you've had a difficult day at work or at school, or the travel was difficult. You may turn to your partner, your family, and you say, I just had a really tough day. It's been really difficult. Now, that's not positive. That's quite a negative statement, but that may be life enhancing. It may be really good to kind of say, I just want to share with you how crappy today has been. That might be a really useful thing to do for you, to offload that, to chat with that, to share that problem with your family or friends. Now, if you spend all evening talking about it, it's probably not life enhancing. But instead of just going, is it positive or is it negative, which is just too hard a filter, instead go, is this helping me move forwards? Now, sometimes complaining, moaning, sharing those problems, venting could be really useful. So it's not like it's illegal, it's off limits. It's like, what do I think right now? And that's a much more useful way to think about it. Is the way I'm being useful for me right now? Okay. So ditch the whole idea, is it positive or negative, and ask this question, is it life enhancing? Is it useful for me? Is it moving my life in the way I want it to? If we have that as our kind of guide, that will help us a lot. We could also look at other things. So quite often people will go, what the pit is my major symptom. And although it's true your major symptom is part of the pit, it's not the entirety of the pit. And if all you focus on is that, you may be missing lots of other versions of the pit. And we need to spot the pit in all the ways it shows up. So if you're in a queue and the queue's moving really slowly and you're getting annoyed that you've chosen the wrong queue, the slow line, the slow lane in traffic or in the supermarket, that's the pit as well, because that's not very useful for you. Just sitting there in the queue, not much you can do about it, steaming about it and getting annoyed, it's probably not going to be helpful. So that is not life enhancing. That's not the biggest thing in the world, right? But if you don't spot it, these are the kind of things that they build up and they create the environment where it makes it much, much easier to get into stress, to get into the pit. Because of course, remember neuroplasticity, that the more we use a pathway, the stronger it gets. So if we spend a lot of time getting into stress, a lot of time getting to the pit, a lot of time getting to frustration, then it will be easier and easier to get into those states. And because the way the brain works, that it recognizes that one state is often followed by another. So we know that if we get stressed, we may feel annoyed afterwards, we may feel frustrated, we may feel guilty, all these kind of states could follow. And that's why it's so important to catch as many of these states as we can. Now, Are we saying you should never be in the pit and you should spot it all the time? No, because that's a perfectionist pattern. Again, that's not part of the lightning process. It's completely reasonable that sometimes you and me will find ourselves in the pit and not notice it. The question is not, will you be in the pit from time to time? You probably will be. In fact, you definitely will be. The question is, will you be aware? Will you notice it? How quickly will you notice it? And when you have noticed it, and sometimes there's a time lag between being in the pit and noticing it, which could vary from seconds to minutes to days. When you do notice you're in the pit, what are you going to do about it? That's the question. Not, will I ever be in the pit again? You will be in the pit, I probably guarantee that. The question is, what are you going to do when you find out? When you discover you're in the pit, you're going to take action. And the action to take is anything that gets you out of the pit. The lightning process is a great way of doing that. Just pausing, making a choice, being nice to yourself, asking yourself some powerful questions. But there are lots of other ways you can get out of the pit. You can get out of the pit by putting on some nice music, dancing, hanging out with nice people, going into nature. Those are all useful ways, and we would say they are all part of the lightning process as well, because the lightning process is the journey from being in the pit to moving towards the life you love, moving from stuck to flourishing. So really start to watch yourself, notice when you're in the pit, because chances are you will be. Notice the kind of ways you do it. So say you may notice there's levels of pits. I'm stressed about this, and then I'm annoyed with myself for being stressed. That's two versions of the pit, both need dealing with. Be kind to yourself in the process. Recognize that from time to time we all get into the pit. The question is, how quickly do we make changes when we notice we're in it? So spot the pit, notice the pit, anything not life enhancing, anything not useful. It's not black and white, it's not, is this positive or negative? That's not the definition you want to use. Is this useful for me right now? Well, just check in with yourself, trust yourself. And the more you can move away from the pit, the less time you spend in it, the better your life will be. I hope you found that useful. See you on the next one.